here in Atlanta, Friday, March 6th, and getting ready to see the Atlanta Hawks play Cleveland Cavaliers, see some LeBron, and here's the speciation, the forming of new species over time. A species is defined as a group of organisms that naturally interbreed and produce fertile offspring, meaning they produce offspring that can again produce more offspring. Over time, there are some mechanisms that cause new species to come from old species. One of those ways is isolation. The three mechanisms for isolation are behavioral, geographic, and temporal. So, behavioral. This can be seen in birds, it can be seen in frogs, and lots of things like that. These animals are very specific for what they're looking for in a mate, and it can be as simple as the song that they use to compete for the mate. And over time, as this is constantly happening, these organisms become separated, they become isolated from each other and no longer can interbreed. Then you have geographic, which can be a river, mountain, anything like that that causes animals to be, or not just animals, but organisms to be separated over long enough periods of time that they become adapted to that specific environment, and the gene pools no longer mix. They become two completely different gene pools. Then temporal, which is so time, right? So they reproduce at different times. There are orchids that release their pollen on different days. So these orchids never interbreed, and over time they're going to become two different species. So, and this is seen in Darwin's finches on the Galapagos Islands, where you have a South America over here, and you have this finch, right? That's a finch, and species A. So this finch moved over to these islands at some point, and during times when there's plenty of food, there's not much competition. During the rainy season, when there's plenty of food around, there's not much competition. But during the dry season, these finches are competing for more of the food, and obviously the more fit individuals pass on that pass on their genes to the next generation. So we have this original population of finch over here, and some of them may make it over to this island, and on this island, to avoid competition, they may move to the other island. And since this doesn't happen very often, they're going to begin to adapt to this new environment. The plants may be different, the seeds may be different, the other competition may be different. So they're going to adapt in different ways. And as this happens over time, different alleles, different genes are going to be chosen for and chosen against. And this eventually, we'll call this B, maybe they return, and they're different than this population. They no longer interbreed with the original. Don't look at me. They no longer interbreed with the original population that moved from the mainland. So again, during wet season, there's not going to be a lot of competition. They're kind of eating whatever's available. But dry season, when the competition increases, these that are adapted in different ways are going to be able to eat different things than this original population. So again, the competition is not going to be as high. So these are going to continue to stay separated. And then maybe another one moves over to this island, and this island offers a completely different. And so this is just going to continue to happen over time, and these species are even the ones that aren't separated by water or something are still going to be different species, and these selection events are going to continue to happen, and they're going to continue to adapt to their environment. And these adaptations can be things like where they live. Do they live up in the tree? Do they live on the ground? Do they eat seeds? Do they eat fruit? Do they eat other things? And these physical adaptations are going to help them to be more fit. And these isolation mechanisms that are driving natural selection are how we get new species. So the big thing isolation. Alright, over long periods of time, whether it's geographic, temporal, or behavioral, are going to cause these to split. They're going to cause, for some reason, they're going to stop interbreeding. Their gene pools are going to become different. Different traits are going to be selected for, and these organisms are going to become different species. Even if they're still very closely related, they're going to become different species. We have isolation, competition. Remember, like we said, in the wet season, when there's plenty of rain, plenty of food, plenty of water, all of these things are just going to eat what's available, and there's not going to be as much competition. But when the dry season comes, that's when they're going to look for greener ground. That's when they're going to become specialists, and the more specialized they are, the less they have to compete. Because if I can eat something that no one else eats, then I'm not competing with anyone, and I'm going to continue to pass on my genes, and I'm going to continue. And as this happens over time, over and over and over again, we're going to get different species.